Hidden deep within the frozen wilderness of Siberia lies a lake so unfathomably deep that neither light nor logic can reach its bottom. In that place, a team of Soviet divers once encountered something that no one has ever dared to name. It stood nearly 3 meters tall. It did not breathe. It was not human. And ever since that day, Lake Baikal has held a secret that mankind may never be ready to uncover. So fasten your seatbelt as we dive into today's mystery. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. Isolated among the endless forests and frozen mountains of Siberia lies Lake Baikal. Not merely a sparkling jewel of Russia, but a living vault of mysteries yet to be uncovered. Far more than just a freshwater lake, Baikal carries with it a surreal beauty that seems to blur the line between reality and legend. And like many ancient places steeped in reverence, it has stories, ones that, once heard, are not easily forgotten. One of the strangest accounts ever to emerge from its depths does not come from folklore, but from military records. In the summer of 1982, a Soviet Navy unit was dispatched to Lake Baikal to carry out a deep diving training operation. Equipped with oxygen masks, specialized suits, and strict orders, they descended into the brain-numbing cold, into a world that felt less like Earth and more like an alien realm. A world where humans were merely visitors. At first, everything proceeded as planned. The exercises were executed with precision, and the team maintained their usual state of professional alertness. But then, on what should have been an ordinary morning, everything changed. During a routine dive formation, a group of divers suddenly noticed 3 unfamiliar figures drifting silently through the murky waters nearby. These were not teammates. These were not military divers. And most unsettling of all, they wore no breathing apparatus. Illuminated by the beams of their underwater torches, the shapes slowly came into focus. 3 humanoid beings, towering in height, estimated at around 3 meters, clad in tight, reflective silver suits, and wearing helmet-like headgear that appeared to leave their faces fully exposed. They floated with eerie grace, without wasted movement, showing no signs of aggression. And yet, behind the glassy curve of their helmets, their eyes, reflecting the divers' lights back at them, seemed to be watching, calmly, intently. In that moment, deep within Lake Baikal, 2 worlds that were never meant to intersect had suddenly crossed paths. And in the silent vacuum of shock, a single truth became crystal clear. These Soviet soldiers were now face to face with something that lay beyond the reach of logic, beyond the grasp of science, and far beyond the training manuals of any military program they had ever known. Not long after, the divers resurfaced and immediately reported what they had seen. But instead of pulling back or observing from a distance, the military chose to push forward, making a decision that, in hindsight, many would come to believe was a grave mistake. Upon returning to the surface, the divers showed no signs of panic. These were men trained to face any scenario beneath the crushing pressure of deep water, but what they had just experienced did not belong to any training they had ever known. Their report was swiftly delivered to the commanding officer in charge of overseeing the entire operation. And under the pale afternoon sun, amid the dry cold and profound stillness that defines the Siberian air, a sudden and unexpected decision was made. Instead of halting the operation to reassess the situation, the command staff issued an order: select the 7 strongest divers, arm them with reinforced nets and specialized restraint equipment, and send them back into the depths, with one objective only: capture one of the unidentified beings. The order was carried out without hesitation. The vessel drifted once more toward the center of the lake. The men on board carried with them a firm belief in the power of technology and the might of military training. But none of them knew they were stepping into a confrontation with something far beyond the boundaries of human comprehension. As the beams of their torches once again swept through the pitch-black waters, the silver figures reappeared. They did not flee. On the contrary, the 3 mysterious entities began to drift closer, slowly, deliberately, almost as if curious. It may have been an act of communication, or perhaps a mutual attempt at observation, but that moment was abruptly broken when one of the divers, acting in accordance with the plan, launched a steel net toward the nearest figure. No one could have predicted what happened next. In the blink of an eye, one of the beings reached to its side and pulled out a small metallic object. It bore no resemblance to any known weapon, no trigger, no visible flash of light, but its effect was immediate and devastating. A vortex erupted in the water, violent and unrelenting, as though the very lakebed had been torn apart. The immense force hurled the entire dive team back toward the surface in a brutal and uncontrolled ascent. What followed on the surface was chaos. Their bodies trembled. Their eyes were wide with fear. Some were barely conscious. In a matter of moments, they had become classic victims of rapid decompression, when a diver is forced to ascend too quickly from deep water without undergoing proper decompression protocols. There was only one functioning decompression chamber. Of the 7 who returned, only 4 were placed inside. The remaining 3 were laid out on the frigid rocky shore, comforted by hollow reassurances as their bodies convulsed with unbearable pain. Not long after, they died. Their deaths were recorded in the official reports. But what they witnessed before they passed, those beings, that unexplainable encounter, left a fracture in the minds of those who survived. Because what they saw wasn't just unexpected. It was a collision with a form of life that was entirely other, intelligent, reactive, and capable of manipulating the environment in ways that defy our current understanding of science. From that moment on, the entities ceased to be a local anomaly. They became legend, and within classified documents never made public, they were referred to by a name both simple and haunting: the Lake Baikal swimmers. If the surface of Lake Baikal embodies the pristine stillness of untouched nature, then beneath its crystal waters lies an entirely different realm, a world cloaked in shadow, ancient and immense, where the very idea of discovery makes even modern minds hesitate. It is no coincidence that scientists refer to this place as the deepest lake on Earth, with a depth surpassing 1,600 meters and enough volume to hold nearly 20% of the world's unfrozen freshwater. Baikal is not merely a lake, it is an aquatic universe unto itself. What makes Baikal truly exceptional is not just its depth, but the life that survives within its cold, hidden reaches. Over 4,000 species of flora and fauna have been cataloged here, and a significant portion of them exists nowhere else on Earth. This is a closed, isolated ecosystem, one that has evolved continuously over millions of years. Deep beneath the surface, hydrothermal vents and geothermal springs feed warmth and minerals into the icy abyss, creating conditions for life to not just endure, but to evolve in unimaginable directions. It is in this extreme environment that ordinary creatures can grow to extraordinary sizes. Fish discovered here routinely exceed the length and weight of their counterparts in other bodies of water. And of course, by ecological logic, when prey grows larger, so must the predator. This has fueled centuries of speculation about the existence of a colossal creature lurking in the depths of Baikal, described by locals not as folklore, but as a bona fide lake monster. Elders once spoke of a beast that used underground tunnels to travel between the lake and neighboring rivers. It would appear without warning, attacking fishermen and causing both man and boat to vanish. In modern times, spoken tales may have quieted, but the traces remain. Fishing nets shredded like tissue paper, livestock mysteriously disappearing near the shoreline, and unexplainable ripples splitting the surface with no origin in sight. Recent descriptions paint a chilling image: a creature more than 10 meters in length, with jaws that make up nearly a third of its body, like an oversized version of the pike, but with strength and speed far beyond anything cataloged in known biology. Some have theorized that it may be a surviving descendant of a prehistoric marine reptile, perhaps a mosasaur or something similar, that somehow endured the mass extinction and found sanctuary in the black depths of Baikal, where no sunlight reaches, and science has yet to cast its light. Another theory, quieter but no less disturbing, suggests these creatures may not be relics of the past at all. Instead, they could belong to an entirely separate evolutionary branch, one that has never been named, never been documented, and continues to thrive beneath the icy waters, just as it did when Earth itself had no language. Each time a net is torn, Each time a dim shaft of light from the lake bed is swallowed by a vast, shapeless shadow, the people living along Baikal's edge are reminded of the old stories. No one has ever seen the creature clearly, but its existence, or even the faint possibility of it, is enough to ensure that no one turns their back on the lake once night falls. If the bottom of Lake Baikal holds ancient secrets, then the sky above it seems to mirror an entirely different reality, a realm untouchable by human hands, yet present just often enough to ensure we can never quite look away. For years, residents around Baikal have grown accustomed to strange phenomena occurring above the water's surface. But in time, the light no longer came only from below. Some began to speak of luminous orbs, perfectly round, brilliant, and moving in ways that defied the known laws of physics. These glowing spheres would drift silently across the lake, then either shoot skyward with astonishing speed, or plunge into the depths without disturbing the water in the slightest. One of the most vivid eyewitnesses was Alec Chulain, a seasoned diving instructor with years of experience on the lake. One late afternoon, as the lake shimmered silver beneath the setting sun, he and his students were adrift in a small boat when they saw it. At first, it appeared only as a faint red blink on the horizon, like a misplaced star rising from the wrong part of the sky. But then it moved closer, gliding just above the water at a pace that wasn't fast or slow, but somehow deliberate. As it neared, they realized it wasn't a signal flare or beacon, but a glowing crimson sphere pulsating gently, like the beat of a living heart. The orb approached their boat, then suddenly dove into the water. In that instant, the entire lake around them lit up in a deep red glow, as though someone had ignited a second sun beneath the surface. A few seconds later, the sphere rose again from the water and vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a silence so profound it chilled the bones. Another account came from Sergei Kich, a local who lived in a wooden cabin near the lake shore. One night, just as he was preparing for bed, his young son ran in, shouting that there was a light flying over the lake. Sergei stepped onto the balcony, squinting into the dim twilight. And indeed, there was a soft orange glow hovering just above the water, as if unsure whether to rise or submerge. Then it shot up into the sky, only to immediately plunge back down to the exact same spot, as though an invisible path connected two different worlds. Before Sergei could call for anyone else, a second orb appeared, rising from the lake like a creature greeting the surface. The two spheres then darted back and forth across the water's surface, playfully almost, before diving beneath the waves at the same time, leaving nothing but confusion etched into the eyes of their lone witness. These stories are no longer rare. From night fishermen and boat captains to thrill-seeking tourists, everyone seems to have their own moment of strange encounter. And what's even more unsettling, these phenomena aren't limited to Lake Baikal. Across the world, in Lake Michigan in 1994, a cluster of witnesses reported a similar event. Unidentified flying objects moving in strange curved paths, appearing and disappearing in seconds, confirmed by local weather radar. In Canada's Shag Harbor in 1967, a large flying object was seen by numerous people as it crashed into the ocean at night, prompting an official government investigation. And in the waters off Puerto Rico, multiple former U.S. Navy personnel have publicly admitted to encountering unidentified underwater vehicles, technology they claimed does not belong to any country on Earth. The common thread in all these cases? Water. Many researchers now believe that what we call unidentified flying objects, UFOs, may not come from outer space at all. Instead, they might originate from the deepest waters of our own planet. Perhaps they are a parallel species, evolved beneath the ocean floor. Or perhaps if they are truly from another world, then water is their sanctuary, the perfect curtain behind which to hide, undetected for centuries. And if that theory holds true, then Lake Baikal is more than a geographic feature. It may be a gateway, a threshold to another reality, one we have never stepped into, but one that may have always been watching us from the other side of the water. If the strange phenomena surrounding Lake Baikal could easily be dismissed as local folklore or tricks of the Siberian mist, then the incident that occurred in 1977 left a far deeper mark, one not so easily erased. Because this time, it wasn't fishermen or tourists who bore witness. It was Soviet scientists. That year, During a large-scale geological survey organized by the USSR Academy of Sciences, 2 small submersibles, Pisces 2 and Pisces 7, both acquired from Canada, were deployed to Lake Baikal for a 6-week series of deep dives. Over the course of the operation, the research team conducted 42 dives in total, some reaching depths greater than 1,400 meters. An impressive achievement even by today's standards. One of those dives, and arguably the most unforgettable, took place on a gloomy afternoon as a group of scientists worked inside Pisces 7. The small submersible, narrow-bodied with rounded viewing ports like fish eyes, hovered silently just a few meters above the lake bed. Its front-facing spotlight illuminated the ancient sediment below, revealing cracks in the lake floor and still tufts of aquatic moss swaying in the icy current. And then, everything began to change. From somewhere behind them, a pale yellow light appeared. At first, faint near the tail end of the vessel, then gradually expanding until it filled the entire observation chamber. There was no sound, no visible movement in the water, just the light. Yet it came not from the spotlight, nor from any controllable source aboard the sub. At first, the scientists assumed it was Pisces 2 approaching, but when they radioed for confirmation, the response came quickly. Pisces 2 was still anchored at the surface, undergoing scheduled maintenance, and had not descended at all that afternoon. A quiet unease crept through the cabin. Every eye turned toward the same direction, toward the light drifting silently outside the window, as though an enormous object were gliding just overhead, mere meters away. Its shape remained indistinct, but one thing was certain: something was out there, something vast, silent, and radiating a kind of light no known human technology could produce at the time. The glow moved slowly, passing over the top of the vessel before fading into the deeper darkness toward the lake's center. It left behind no turbulence, no wake, only strained heartbeats and a thick, weighty silence inside the cabin. When the research team resurfaced, they immediately reviewed the dive logs. There were no other vessels in the area. No light sources were reported from the surface station. No equipment had malfunctioned. No rational explanation presented itself. And the most crucial fact of all, in 1977, no submarine in the world, Soviet or American, was capable of operating stably at depths greater than 1,400 meters while producing such a powerful external light source. The incident was never widely publicized. It appeared only years later, tucked away in a supplementary report quietly appended to a geological dossier. But for those who were there, the world never looked the same again. Some members of the team spent years afterward trying to explain what they had witnessed. A few proposed that it may have been a rare instance of subterranean electrical discharge. Others suggested it was an unusual reflection caused by methane gas escaping from the lake bed. But when they spoke of the feeling, the primal instinct that only stirs when we come face to face with something beyond reason, they all described the same thing: presence. Not illusion, not malfunction, but the intentional presence of something, watching them from the other side of the light. To this day, no scientific explanation has been offered that can fully account for what happened, and those who participated in that dive, if they are still alive, continue to carry it with them, like a memory that never dims, glowing softly in the mind like that yellow light drifting in the silence beneath Lake Baikal. After years marked by unexpected encounters, strange lights, 3-meter-tall beings who breathe no air, and glowing red orbs that dart through both lake and sky, one question still lingers above all others. What exactly lives beneath the waters of Lake Baikal? Some insist that it's all a misunderstanding, a military accident embellished over time, a case of rapid decompression retold through the lens of collective imagination, a trick of geological light seen by minds on edge, perhaps. But can so many phenomena, across different years, different witnesses, different instruments and conditions, coincide so perfectly by chance? One theory, once ridiculed as fringe science, is now being reconsidered by some researchers with growing seriousness: that water, seemingly lifeless and inert, might in fact be the long-term habitat of an entirely different form of civilization. Not extraterrestrials arriving from some distant star, but a type of life form that has always been here, silently watching, evolving, and coexisting alongside humanity. Perhaps they emerged from another moment in Earth's geological history, an evolutionary branch long forgotten. Or maybe they did come from another world, but chose water as their refuge, embedding themselves within the deepest sediments of this planet. In that context, Baikal, with its terrifying depth, freezing temperatures, and ability to conceal anything beneath its black veil, would be the perfect sanctuary. Some have speculated that the so-called swimmers of Baikal may not be biological creatures at all, but organic machines designed to operate in environments of crushing pressure, sub-zero cold, and complete darkness. Their intelligent reactions, the metallic device that triggered a whirlpool, their ability to appear and vanish without a trace, all point toward a technology far beyond what modern humans can currently comprehend. Of course, these are only theories, and like all great mysteries throughout human history, from the Bermuda Triangle to unexplained radio signals from the cosmos, the truth is often buried beneath layers of denial, skepticism, and fear. Perhaps the Soviet Union knew more than it ever admitted. Perhaps subsequent dives and investigations were never made public. Or perhaps they came to understand that some doors are best left unopened. Because once you've seen what waits behind such a door, you may never see this world the same way again. Even now, Lake Baikal continues to draw explorers, scientists, and dreamers alike. Its surface remains clear as crystal, but at a certain depth, the light begins to fade, the temperature plummets, and time itself seems to slow. And if you ever find yourself standing before that lake on a moonless winter night when the water lies still like a black mirror reflecting the heavens, pause for a moment, look down, listen closely, because perhaps something is quietly looking back at you from the other side of the water. What you've just heard may be nothing more than legend, or it may be a truth we're simply not ready to face. But if there are still things in this world that defy explanation, then perhaps it's in the deepest places that we should begin to look. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of the video. If you enjoy mysteries that remain unsolved, don't forget to hit subscribe and share this story with those who also believe that something is out there.